Welcome back to the Crash Course Podcast. My name is CraigCrash Collins, joined as always by Brandon Scott, otherwise known as B. Scott. Super Bowl week is finally upon us. It's time for us to get into the weeds, talk all things, Rams, Bengals, who we think's going to win, what we think the keys to the game are. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to discuss a wild game, or a wild week for the Indiana Pacers as we head towards the trade deadline.
They're blowing it up.
Yep.
They're blowing it up.
Look, that's what we wanted, and so we're very happy to see that happen finally. I not to give the game away at all, what we're going to talk about a little bit later, but it finally felt like there's some reason for optimism. This was a team without a course, a couple of weeks ago it felt like, and now finally it feels like they're going in.
It's starting to make sense. It's starting to make sense finally.
But B. Scott, first of all, how was your weekend, man? How's your week since the last podcast?
Snowed in. Like most of the state of Indiana, snowed in with a 3 and a 2-year-old for 4 straight days. And like my mom asked me, so how was the weekend? I said, we survived. That's the best answer you can give in those types of situations. We survived. Nobody got thrown out into the snow unwillingly. And nobody ended up in jail.
Hey, sometimes that's all you can really ask for. I took one look outside, even though it didn't take me really, it didn't take much, but I took one look outside on Thursday and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to work today.
You're like, nah, I'm good.
I'm fine. I'm gonna, I'm gonna take my 3-day weekend instead. So yeah, it was a very cold couple of days, very snowy couple of days. But during that time since our last podcast, we did make an announcement. In case you've missed it, coming on February 25th, you will see a new podcast on the channel, the Hoosier High School Huddle, and we also released our first Players of the Week for boys and girls basketball. That is on the 3C Media channel, so make sure you guys go check that out. A lot of hype surrounding that, but there's a lot of hype surrounding the NFL right now because, of course, it is Super Bowl week. Which
means we got through the glorified flag football week.
Yes.
That is oh so entertaining.
Yes, we must first talk about the Pro Bowl. We've talked about the Pro Bowl in the past, haven't given it two thoughts most years on the podcast, because you're right, it is a glorified flag football game essentially, which they might as well just play regular flag football. That would probably be a little bit more entertaining.
That would be more entertaining, yeah, it would.
But yes, over the weekend was the Pro Bowl. Some notes from that one is the AFC won 41-35. Kyler Murray went 18 for 27, 160 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I got to say about Kyler Murray, somebody got in his ear this past weekend. Somebody got in his ear and was saying things to him, because for him to go out and completely remove any type of connection to the Arizona Cardinals on his socials got a lot of eyes turned towards him. Who got in his head? Who got in his ear? I want to know.
Yeah,
Jonathan Taylor, Darius Leonard, Darius Leonard.
We'll see. I definitely am interested. Part of me is like not. I was like
hard pass.
Yeah, I was like, part of me is not really thinking too much of it, because you do see that sometimes where guys will take teams, out of their.
He didn't just take them out. He deleted all connections. Like, he's down to like 2 posts on his on his socials right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, that takes a lot of effort. That's like a PR move right there. Like, that's not just him like last night going, yeah, I think I'll do this. Like, that's like some the brain trust behind the socials were probably saying, if we're going to do this, we need to do it the right way. And because that's a full cleanse right there. Yeah. That's a gut buster cleanse.
But why, where's he gonna? I
don't know.
Yeah, I was like, who's a team that's going to? Kyler Murray's got a lot of potential, and he is. The jury's kind of still out on what Kyler Murray will be. But
do you really want a quarterback that when he doesn't play good, he just blames it on his wide receivers. Like, they just weren't getting open. Like, well, no, you weren't getting the ball to them. Like,
and I mean, yeah, injury prone too. I mean, the last couple of years he's been nursing an injury, and so and that's been kind of the Cardinals apologists have been like, that's why they've had bad seasons the last couple
it's not just him with the Cardinals that's been nursing an injury. That whole team has been nursing an injury. I mean, look at the wide receivers. They've all been injured. TJ Watt or JJ Watt, yeah. The older of the Watt brothers was out. So all right, I got us off topic. I just had to put that in there.
No, for sure. And then we have Mac Jones, who had a long touchdown run that didn't count. He did hit the gritty, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He had Mark Andrews, 5 catches, 82 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Darius Leonard had a pick 6. But I saw a post on Facebook, and it got me thinking of maybe a little bit of a palate cleanser topic here to start off the podcast. There were 6 quarterbacks, 3 for the AFC, 3 for the NFC, and it was about like the quarterback rooms. Which one would you take? And so I kind of took that idea and was like, you know what? Taking those 6 Pro Bowl quarterbacks, who do we think is who will win the Super Bowl the soonest? Who do we think is most likely next up to win the Super Bowl? You have from the AFC, you have Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Mac Jones. From the NFC, you have Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and Kyler Murray. So, I think, I want us, B. Scott, to have a consensus on this, which, I mean, our number 1 is going to be no matter what. I mean, Pat Mahomes.
Because, I mean, he's already won.
Well,
I mean,
right, but also is in the
this is his first year in like the past 3 years that he hasn't made the Super Bowl.
Right, but also it's just the fact that he's on like you have no problem believing that he could win the Super Bowl next year, and there's doubts. I think there's significant doubts with all the rest of these guys on this list of whether or not when they're going to be in the Super Bowl, let alone win the thing. Next. So that's why Patrick Mahomes, that's why I had no problem going 1 to 6, because I know our number 1 is not going to be all that surprising in Pat Mahomes.
You don't think Justin Herbert's number 1?
Not as far as, I was like, not as far as most likely to win the next. But number 2 on my list. Go ahead.
Does it have to be with their current team? Because
it's going by the fact that they have not changed teams yet. So
okay.
Yeah. So, like, if you put Russell Wilson or even, like, any of these guys on the Buccaneers, let's say, or something like that, then, like, I think that puts them, in the catbird seat to potentially, maybe, who knows. But next on the list for me, number 2 on that list of who might win the Super Bowl, the soonest, is Mac Jones. He was 15th in QB rating this season, first amongst rookies. His coach is Bill Belichick, so obviously that gives you an insane leg up. You've got the 4th ranked defense, which that's Bill Belichick's specialty, and the AFC is much more wide open than the NFC. So I think you can let me know what you think, B. Scott. I think Mac Jones is number 2 on this list.
I wouldn't. I don't know. Like, 1 is so easy, but when you look at the rest of this list, it's like, ooh, I really don't know if anybody else has a legit shot. Because, I mean, the Patriots and Mac Jones, I think, have probably the next best chance just because of their defense, and he's going to be there for a while. But I'm like, they need to get him some help, and that's just not something the Patriots have done very well here recently, is finding skill position players. So, I mean, I think by default, just based off of the way these organizations have been run, I have to put Mac Jones at 2, just by default, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel real confident, and that kind of shows you the state of the Pro Bowl. That shows you how.
Well, because there was no Josh Allen even.
Right, no Josh Allen.
If Josh Allen was there, I mean, that would be consensus probably 2 at worst.
Well, I mean, look at the top 3 seeds, from each side. I mean, Aaron Rodgers isn't there. Josh Allen, like you said, isn't there. So a lot of those guys, Dak Prescott's not there.
Oh, come on. Them boys ain't winning a Super Bowl anytime soon.
Well, right, but I mean, I think you would take a lot of those guys over who's on the current list.
I would take some of them over Mac Jones, especially the bottom of this list. I would take them over.
Right. So yeah, a lot of question marks really the further you go down this list. So we're good on Mahomes and Jones. So third on the list for me is Russell Wilson. He did win Super Bowl 48. He did finish fifth in quarterback rating in 2021. He does throw to two Pro Football Focus top 15 wide receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, but he plays in the league's toughest division in the NFC West. He hasn't been out of the divisional round since 2014. His running game was fourth in 2013. That's when they won the Super Bowl behind Marshawn Lynch, and they were 11th this past season. They do have Chris Carson, who's okay, but not beast mode level. And then their defense was obviously Legion of Boom, ranked first, and their defense was 28th this past season.
Who the Colts just hired that defensive coordinator? We'll talk about that later in another week.
True. So I mean, it's a team that is a shell of what they were when they went to the Super Bowl. And so do I, that's why I was like, I don't know if putting Mac Jones above Russell Wilson is really controversial at all, but it definitely, to me, feels like, Mac Jones with the Patriots is in a better position than Russell Wilson, although he's won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks currently.
I mean, this one's tough just because the weapons that Russell Wilson has around him, I feel like are a little bit better than what Mac Jones has, but the rest of the team is not nearly as good as what the Patriots have. So I would go Russell Wilson here because based off of the rest of the list, it makes sense to put him here because he's been there. He's got the experience. He knows how to lead it. I mean, look, he's been to the Super Bowl. Oh, just once. Yeah, twice. He's been to the Super Bowl twice in back-to-back years. And so he knows how to get there. And it, honestly, all you have to do with your division is survive it and get into the playoffs. That's really it. I mean, look, that's the way this, the NFC basically is, whoever could survive the NFC West was going to go to the Super Bowl for the NFC. And that's kind of what happened. You just have to be one of the top three teams in that division and you're making the playoffs. But I don't know. I feel like this list could change completely if Russell Wilson ends up with a team like the New York Giants or something. And it's like, well, no, buddy, sorry, you're going to the back of the list now. But
I've seen also the Washington Commanders. I've seen kind of floated up there, and I'm like, I don't know that's a worse situation, in my opinion. Maybe the defense is a little bit better as far as what they could potentially be, but definitely not what they actually are currently.
He's got some offensive weapons there. I think that would be bad.
But better than what he has in Seattle, as far as receivers.
No. Yeah, no, because DK Metcalf. I'm sorry, Terry McLaurin, you're good, but you're no DK Metcalf.
You're no DK for sure.
No, nobody is no DK Metcalf. That's for sure. So yeah, I like Russell Wilson there just because of the experience. Do I have faith that the Seahawks can win a Super Bowl anytime soon? No, not really.
Yeah, the rest of this list are teams that either have never been to the Super or never won a Super Bowl or haven't been to the Super Bowl in a very long time.
Well, like this next quarterback, Justin Herbert, I would put him higher because I think he has a very bright future. Unfortunately, he just plays for an organization that just can't seem to get out of its own way,
right,
most of the time. So if he was if he was with the Colts, I would put him higher on this list than Russell Wilson. I would maybe even put him second just because, I don't know, I feel like the Colts are a little bit closer to potentially winning a Super Bowl than the Chargers are.
Yeah. Justin Herbert this past season, second in yards, third in touchdowns, 11th in QBR. He has solid talent around him in Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, but like you said, 22nd ranked defense. They play in the same division as Mahomes, and the Chargers have never won the Super Bowl. So I mean, I think I have more confidence in the Chargers winning the Super Bowl now than I really ever did with Rivers. I know Rivers had a lot of talent around him: LaDainian Tomlinson, Antonio Gates, Vincent Jackson. Those guys.
Those were some good teams.
But I mean, they all seemed like the Chargers were always just kind of there. It never seemed like they were.
That's just the Chargers. That's just who they are.
They made the AFC Championship game that one year where they played the Patriots and lost. I think it was one of the years they beat the Colts in like the divisional round. But, other than that, I mean, and I mean, I guess there's really no evidence to point that it won't be more of the same with Herbert. I just think Herbert's maybe a little better than Rivers was, as far as potential
But at the
was.
same time, I feel like that Chargers team probably could have won a Super Bowl if it wasn't for having to go through Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I mean, same thing. Peyton Manning would have won probably would have won a few more Super Bowls if it wasn't for Tom Brady and the Patriots. Like, same argument can be made. Reggie Miller would have won a championship in his career. It wasn't for Michael Jordan and the Bulls.
True.
So, I mean, it's just that type of situation where, a lot of really good teams are left on the outside of winning a championship because there is an all generational talent and really a century great team that they have to get through. And nobody was really getting through them consistently or really ever.
Right. So, list so far: Mahomes, Jones, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert. I actually had Kyler Murray ahead of Kirk Cousins, and that's how the list is going to round out. And I don't think that's too crazy of a take either. I mean, with Kyler, he did improve from last year to this year. He was 18th in QBR in 2020. He was 8th this past season. Took the Cardinals to their first playoff berth since 2015. He has DeAndre Hopkins, obviously.
Hey, I picked the Cardinals. Then I picked the Cardinals preseason to win it all.
I think you did, yeah. Yeah, you had them and the Titans in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's insane in and of itself if that would have come true. But the last two seasons, I mean, the Cardinals started 2020 6-3. They lost 5 of their last 7 to finish at 8-8. And in 2021, they started 7-0. They were 10-2 on December 5th, and then lost 4 of their last 5. And I know injuries played a significant role in all of that, but at the same time, I think part of it also comes down to coaching and who your quarterback is.
Oh yeah, a lot of their offensive struggles can be definitely placed back on Cliff Kingsbury, and that's what a lot of people say. Like, it's time for him to go because there's a lot of talent on this team. It's just he didn't know how to tap into that talent. Everybody thought when Cliff Kingsbury came to the NFL and then got Kyler Murray, it was like, oh, game, set, match. This Cardinals team is going to be for real. And they always start off that way, but unfortunately, they don't know how to close the deal.
Right. And then wrapping up the list is Kirk Cousins. I had him last because, I mean,
shouldn't even been in the Pro Bowl, to be honest.
Well, he's fourth. He was fourth in QBR this season, which is crazy. He's He's been in the top 10 in QBR every season since coming to the Vikings. He's had a top 5 wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. He also has Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook around him as well. So the core is actually really good, but he's led his team to the playoffs just twice, once in Washington and once with the Vikings. He's playing with the 30th ranked defense, which when they made the NFC Championship game last, they were the first ranked defense. And so kind of the funny thing is that Kirk Cousins has really had the team that he's going to be going into next season with and hasn't done anything with that. So there's nothing to really show you. I mean, they won the playoff game, a couple years ago against the Saints, and that's really it as far as what Kirk Cousins has done with the Minnesota Vikings. So that's
the only reason why I would have put him above Kyler Murray potentially is because the divisions that they play in. Kyler Murray is in the NFC West. Kirk Cousins is in the NFC North, and the NFC North looks like it's going to kind of be a train wreck potentially next year. Yeah. The Bears and the Lions are the Bears and the Lions. Green Bay, who knows what that team's going to look like? You have Aaron Rodgers potentially being traded, but not being traded. You never know. It always changes each day. And Devontae Adams is a free agent. So if, Green Bay moves towards the future, that division's wide open, and it's a perfect opportunity for Kirk Cousins and the Vikings to really take a step forward. So I think, honestly, the one change I'd make to this list is Kirk Cousins above Kyler Murray just because of the outlook of the divisions they both play in.
That's true, but also on that note, you're talking also about a Minnesota Vikings team that could potentially win the NFC North by default because there's no better team. It's going to be like the NFC East a couple years ago where you could maybe go, 9-8, 8-9 even, and potentially win that division if there's no Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay versus the Kyler Murray team that you think, honestly, if they stay healthy next season, could potentially win the NFC West even with as tough as that division is. So I'd have more faith in the Cardinals going through the NFC than I would the Vikings going through into the NFC and potentially making the Super Bowl, given the fact that you have a quarterback winning a division because you're going up against Jared Goff and the Lions, Justin Fields and the Bears, and Jordan Love and the Packers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think those last two are toss-ups, but if you look at it from that point of view, it makes total sense of putting Kyler Murray ahead. But if your division's bad enough, you can rack up some decent wins. I don't know. If they can fix that defense, they'll be a tough team.
I'm still having a tough time reconciling the fact that I really wanted the Vikings to get Brian Flores. That was my big prediction. And of course, we know how that's all played out since then. So we'll see. I don't even know. Do the Vikings, have they hired somebody yet?
I believe so.
They hired
unknown...
hired one of Kirk Cousins' former coaches in Washington, I think. So who knows? We'll see what they're able to do. But yeah, that's our list. We as far as which the Pro Bowl quarterbacks most likely to win a Super Bowl the soonest: Patrick Mahomes first, Mac Jones second, Russell Wilson third, Justin Herbert fourth, Kyler Murray fifth, and Kirk Cousins is sixth. So now it is time to finally get into Super Bowl conversation. But before we do that, let's talk about our friends of the show first with Anchor. We put this podcast on Anchor.fm every single week. You can either record directly to the website itself, or you can do what we do, which is record and then upload later. It's a very easy to use site. You're able to right away, get into monetization. They allow you to be sponsored right away, which is really nice. And they also distribute your podcast to a lot of different platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, the whole 9 yards. So it's a really fun and easy website to use. It also it does a great job of archiving your past broadcasts as well, so you're not limited to any sort of time constraint there as far as how much time you can upload. So that's really nice too. So if you're looking to get into podcasting, Anchor.fm is the way. Also, this podcast is brought to you by Eat Lunch and Board Game. It's a podcast about using board games to build bridges while you are at work. That's done by Adam Collins. He's a big supporter of the podcast. So go over there and support that as well. He's got guests on every week where they talk about the latest and greatest board games. So go check that out. Also, remember, you can follow us at 3C Media Sports on Twitter if you're interested in high school sports especially. That's where we're going to have our high school players of the week and a lot of our coverage coming up of the of both the girls and boys sectional. So make sure you're locked into that. Here across the state of Indiana, you also have 3C Media on Facebook. Go ahead and like us over there. Go follow us or go subscribe to us on YouTube. 3C Media on YouTube. We've got a lot of standalone content. Thank you guys all for your support, especially the IU video we put up last week. Got a lot of hits, so we want to thank you guys for your support there. Also, 3C Media on TikTok. I'm in a pretty epic battle with the My 3 versus community 3-on-3 type thing with NBA legends and current players, that kind of thing. A lot of great content over there. Make sure you check that out. You can watch us live every week, twitch.tv/CraigCrash, so you can come in and give your input if you would like. And remember, you can listen to us every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Wherever podcasts can be heard, you can hear the Crash Course podcast. So let's go ahead and get into Super Bowl 56. It is finally time to dive into the Rams and the Bengals. It's the first time since the merger that neither of the conference's top 3 seeds made the Super Bowl. The Rams come in 12-5. They are the NFC West champs. They started 3-0, won 7 of their first 8 games. However, they had a horrendous stretch in November. They lost to the Titans, 49ers, and Packers. They did rebound with a 5-game winning streak before losing to the 49ers in Week 18. Going through their playoff run, they defeated the Cardinals 34-11 in the wild card round, beat the Buccaneers 30-27 in a game they tried ever so hard to lose in the divisional round. And then in the championship game, they came back and beat the 49ers 20-17. They will be the visiting team in the Super Bowl, but are playing the big game on their home turf. Then you have the Bengals, who are the AFC representatives. They were 10-7 this past season. They are the AFC North champs. They were 4 and this season was kind of just weird I mean, any season where you have the Bengals in the Super Bowl is kind of weird, but it was just the Bengals, trip to the Super Bowl was odd as well. They were 4-2 against playoff teams during the regular season. They swept the Steelers, beat the Raiders and Chiefs. They lost to the Packers and 49ers, but they were 6-5 against the rest of the league, including weird losses to the Bears, Jets. They got swept by the Browns. So just kind of a weird year for the Bengals, but got them to 10-7, got them to the playoffs, where they beat the Raiders 26-19 in the wild card round. They beat the Titans 19-16 in the divisional round, and in the championship game, they came back from a 21-3 deficit against the Chiefs to win 27-24. So, we're going to play a game here. It's what you normally know as hot or cold. But instead, it's going to be Rams or Bengals. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the different units, say whether or not we favor the Rams or the Bengals. So we're going to go through special teams, defense, O-line, tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, and head coach, and give what we think about each one of those units and say whether or not we favor the Rams or the Bengals. So let's go ahead and get it kicked off here with the special teams unit. And honestly, for me, special teams, I'm leaning Bengals here. Sure, we could sit here and get into numbers like, oh, well, the Rams have this many touchbacks this season, and the Bengals, on punt returns, they're averaging this many yards per return. So that's why
all we care about is how many field goals did they miss.
Exactly. So I've got 2 words for you. Evan McPherson. He's 12 for 12 this postseason. He's connected on all of his extra points, and then
he's called his own shot multiple times.
Right. I got like chills when he was running out in overtime, because I was like, I bet he just was like, we're going to the Super Bowl. He probably told somebody on the sideline, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl, guys. I got this.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I think I actually heard that he did that. I know in the divisional round he did too.
Also, Kevin Huber, the punter for the Bengals, went to college and plays professional football all in Cincinnati. So he has been a Cincinnati kid through and through. So that's another reason to root for the Bengals special team. That's another kind of look. Sometimes in the big game, some big stories tend to prevail to just make that Hollywood type of situation, and that's definitely one that plays in the Bengals' favor. But then also, there is some legitimacy to the Bengals pick, because Matt Gay, the kicker for the Rams, has missed 2 field goals this postseason. So, you look at it from that standpoint, I feel, game on the line, I feel a lot more confident with, Evan McPherson making a game-winning field goal than I do.
Ice water in his veins. Yeah, I agree. I'm going with the Bengals as well, just because you love the story of Evan McPherson too. I don't know. It's just, you love to see the young guy out there doing his thing, and the kicker making headlines in a good way, in a fun way. So I'm going with the Bengals because of Evan McPherson, and the dude's got ice water in his veins. Seriously, he hasn't backed down from a big kick and a big moment his entire career. So let's keep it going. And yeah, I got the Bengals with the special teams. Obviously, if you look at all the other metrics and how do they do on punt returns and kick returns, it's like,
honestly, they're pretty even. So that's kind of the two. So it's not like
tiebreaker is Evan McPherson.
True. Well, also, the Bengals are a true testament to just sticking with your plan and just doing what you feel like doing. Everyone tells you need to take an offensive lineman. Joe Burrow is getting annihilated. Take Jamar Chase. They're in the Super Bowl. Everyone says, you took a kicker in what round? And he kicks them to the Super Bowl. You got a plan, and you know what? It all comes together.
Colts GM Chris Ballard's probably sitting back going,
he's punching the air. He's like, really?
Are you kidding? I thought it was all about the trenches.
I thought it was all about building, a good offensive line, a good defensive line, and just letting everything else fall into place. Nope. It is about just saying, you know what? Kicker? Fine. Kicker. Let's take one.
It's all about putting points on the board.
Yes.
Imagine that.
Now, speaking of units that will try to prevent points from going forward, looking at the defense next, this is an argument that I'm actually surprised that I ended up on this side of things. You look at the defenses.
I am too.
You look at defenses through the regular season. They were pretty even. The Rams were 15th, the Bengals 17th in points allowed per game. The Rams were 17th, Bengals were 16th in terms of yards per game. Both are outside the top 20 in pass defense. The Bengals were 5th against the run. The Rams were 6th. But the Rams have really improved over the course of the postseason as well. They've gone from allowing 345 total yards per game to 275. They're the best defense among teams that have played multiple games this postseason. When you look at everything, this postseason, and but on the other side of things though, the Bengals, it's one of those things where like a lot of talk has been about the Rams defense, but it's not as if the Bengals defense is one to sleep on either. Like the Bengals defense has been solid, especially in this postseason run. They've recorded 8 sacks. They're second to the 49ers in that category, as far as teams that have played multiple playoff games. And they have 6 interceptions this postseason, which has obviously played big into why they've been able to pull these upsets over the Titans and especially over the Chiefs. So, I mean, that's, and the turnovers are a big check mark in the sense that you're playing a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who, if you can force some mistakes, you can definitely, get into some, good momentum. And so for me, that's what kind of pushed the needle over to picking the Bengals defensive unit, because they have thrived off creating turnovers, off creating problems for Matthew Stafford. And so in that regard, I think that's going to be a bigger key than anything else. I think the Bengals can figure out a way to, control the pass rush, figure out a way to stop, Aaron Donald and all those guys. But, the Bengals defense, I think, can potentially get into the head of Matthew Stafford. So I'm actually going with the Bengals defense here.
I'm going with the Rams, but an interesting fact about the Bengals defense, there's only one player on that Bengals roster that has experience in the Super Bowl. It's one of their defensive players. Ricardo Allen, he played for the Atlanta Falcons when, they blew that huge lead.
The pick 6, didn't he? I get to put him up, I think, like 21-3. I thought he did.
It may have been him. I honestly, I don't remember. But yeah, he's the only player that has Super Bowl experience, and it's on their defense. So that's cool. Not the experience you kind of want, though, being on the wrong end of that. Probably that most memorable.
He knows how to lose a Super Bowl. I mean,
no. And fun fact: Ricardo Allen comes from a little team up in northern Indiana. There's actually 3 guys from that team up in northern Indiana in the Super Bowl, and 2 of them are on the defense of the Bengals: Ricardo Allen and Marcus Bailey, and then over on the Rams, tight end Bryson Hopkins. Okay, so I'm going with the Rams defense, though. I'm going to put all metrics aside. Look, one of the biggest weaknesses, which we're going to talk here next, is for the Bengals, is their O-line. And just so happening to line up across from that pretty bad O-line is probably arguably one of the best defensive linemen in all of the NFL, and Aaron Donald. He is going to wreak havoc. And I think in that big of a moment, Joe Burrow's played on a big stage before, with the national championship and everything. He's not going to get rattled too easily, but it's going to allow his wide receivers are going to have to get open quickly. And when you look at it, Jamar Chase is going to be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. Let's just be honest. That's just the way it's going to be. This Rams defense, like you said, has gotten better throughout the postseason. And I honestly think that's going to be a big deciding factor in this game, is that Rams defense. They're going to be able to get that pressure on Joe Burrow and really kind of potentially try to rattle him. You talked about rattling Matthew Stafford. I think it's going to end up potentially being Joe Burrow that's going to get rattled, just because the pressure is just going to be consistent. I mean, even if you had like a really good offensive line, it's tough to stop Aaron Donald. He's a really, really good football player. And I think he lined up against Quentin Nelson earlier this year, and he got pressure on Carson Wentz consistently, and that's not an easy thing to do against Quentin Nelson. So if Quentin Nelson was, he didn't struggle, I wouldn't say, but if Quentin Nelson was made to look pedestrian against Aaron Donald, what is a not so good offensive line going to look like against him? Yep. So I'm going with the Rams because of that defensive line against that Bengals O-line.
Yeah, and I mean that is a fair point. It's hard to imagine, that the Bengals having a worse day on the offensive line than they did against the Titans when they allowed 9 sacks. But at the same time, I mean, if there's
this is a different animal,
right? If there's a team that could replicate that or get close to that, I'm not saying they will, but if there's a team that could, put the same type of pressure on him, it is the Rams.
That Rams defense does have Super Bowl experience. Not all of them, but some of them do. It wasn't that long ago they were playing.
You've got a Super Bowl MVP on that Rams, Von Miller.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean,
lots of experience there, folks.
True. So talking about the offensive line now, I mean, when looking at the offensive line, this was an easy Rams pick for me. According to Pro Football Focus, the Rams O-line is ranked 7th to Cincinnati's 20th at the end of the season. Hard to argue for an O-line that gave up 9 sacks in the divisional round against Tennessee. The Rams did allow 2 sacks to the 49ers, which were the team that led the postseason in sacks with 10 going in.
The 49ers defensive line is just as good as the Rams defensive line, if not better. So
right. So I mean, the Rams offensive line can get it done. So easy Rams pick there.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna. You already know. I already talked about it. I don't want to rehash what I just said, but yeah, Rams O-line, obviously.
Looking at the tight ends, this was tough because neither team really uses their tight end a whole lot. I mean, look, I'll come right out and say it. I don't really know how to evaluate these guys as far as blocking. I'm sure they provide. I'm sure they both provide value. I don't really want to get into the weeds as far as Tyler Higbee on third downs can no. I'm good.
He's a pancake artist. Huge day for him.
Yeah, I just want to get into who can provide a threat offensively. That's what I want to know. And honestly, I'm leaning Bengals here. Neither team uses their tight end a whole lot. But the Bengals, C.J. Uzomah, has been used more than the Rams tight end Tyler Higbee this postseason. Both are questionable. But Uzomah is in line to play. He's got 13 catches, 135 yards, and a touchdown in the postseason. Tyler Higbee, 9 catches, 115 yards. So, like I said, neither of them are really big parts of the game plan, but I'm leaning Bengals here.
Yeah, I'll lean with the Bengals too, just because Uzomah has a touchdown to his name this postseason.
Exactly.
I mean, and 20 more yards. But yeah, I don't know. And I'm kind of hoping. I'll be honest. As a fan, I would love to see Tyler Higbee not play, and I would love to see Bryson Hopkins get that playing time. Just because I think he's a future really good tight end.
And Higbee, I mean, his injury, I think it's a leg injury, so he's potentially. I'm pretty sure he injured. I can't remember what he exactly injured, but he is. His injury is he's. Still wasn't practicing as of Friday, so whereas Uzomah is projected to play.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'll go with the Bengals just based on that. If you don't use your tight ends very much and you're using them more in blocking schemes, I'm not the guy to be talking about that. What you need is back in the day, there used to be some really good blocking tight ends that can also really catch the ball well. I mean, we're talking like a Ken Dilger or a Marcus Pollard type, but it feels like you're either a receiving tight end or you're a blocking tight end. You're not both. So if you're not used, I don't know. And a lot of these offenses love to spread the ball out and just air it out, and tight ends aren't
part of that
utilized
unless it's
that
Gronk
way.
Or Travis Kelce or George Kittle.
Yeah, but those guys are just
Freaks.
I mean, yeah, beyond that, there's not much
Right.
else at tight end. So, but Bryson Hopkins can be that. Trust me, folks. Trust me on that one.
Future Super Bowl MVP Bryson
Oh
Hopkins.
no, I'm not calling that. No, I'm just saying. I'm saying he has the potential. He could be in that talk of like a Pro Bowl type category for tight end.
Speaking of airing it out, wide receiver category here. Both wide receiver rooms are absolutely filthy. I mean, for the Rams, you've got Cooper Kupp, you've got OBJ. For the Bengals, you've got Jamar Chase, you've got T. Higgins. This postseason, though, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have combined for 34 catches on 50 targets, 488 yards, and a touchdown. Cooper
Kupp, that surprises me. That stat right there. The one touchdown.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
And that was Jamar Chase in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
So that's not even any of the first two games. Now just by himself, Cooper Kupp has caught 25 catches on 32 targets with 386 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I know that, I mean, obviously you could talk about usage and maybe Burrow and the Bengals spread the ball out a little bit more, but Cooper Kupp has just had an undeniably great season.
It's got to be something with that red field that he played on in college at Eastern Washington. I mean, come on. That red field must give you like some kind of like superhuman power or something, because Cooper Kupp is just out of this world. I mean, I think it was tonight, ESPN put out an article about guys that aren't finalists for the MVP, like non-quarterbacks, who would you rate as the most likely to win an MVP. Cooper Kupp was number 1 on that list. I mean, everybody's like, well, what about Jonathan Taylor? Well, he's a finalist, so he's not eligible for that list because he's considered a finalist. But non-finalists, non-QBs, Cooper Kupp, like, far and away. I mean, the dude's having an outstanding season. I mean, and also the story behind Cooper Kupp is just awesome in itself.
Well, it's rivaling. Is that the right word? Rivaling. It's going up against Calvin Johnson's season that he had in Detroit when he broke the all-time receiving record. And that's what's wild to me, because you talk about two very different wide receivers. I'm not diminishing what Calvin Johnson did at all, but all he has to do is just jump up and catch the ball, because
fun fact, I'm sure you've seen this, but Rams head coach Sean McVay actually beat out Calvin Johnson for the Georgia High School Football Player of the Year when they were both seniors.
Biggest injustice of all time. Like, what? I want to see that stat sheet. I want to recap.
I do too. I want to see that stat sheet. And I was like,
because
okay. It's kind of like when the Notre Dame linebacker commit beat out George Karlaftis and David Bell for Indiana Mr. Football. Jack Kaiser. It's like, huh?
Right.
What? This wasn't political by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Well, because you think about Calvin Johnson, just go because you got to think that he was maybe not as big as he was in the NFL, but at least from a height standpoint, he was probably just beating the pants off people. And
I mean, the only person we've seen we can even compare Calvin Johnson to physique wise is DK Metcalf. To be honest. That's it. I mean, there's not, height wise, maybe Randy Moss, but I mean, it's, So for Cooper Kupp to be playing the way he is, it's such a cool story and it's unbelievable, but yeah. So, and especially when you look at that wide receiver room and it's like, oh man, OBJ, he's got to be leading that room. And it's like, nope, it's Cooper Kupp.
Well, Cooper Kupp by himself has been, as if not in some instances more productive than Chase and Higgins combined. And then, you add OBJ, who's got 9 catches, 236 yards, and a touchdown of his own. I mean, heck, that's, 500-600 yards and a touchdown to beat the 400 yards and 1 touchdown from T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So, I'm going with the Rams here as far as the wide receiver room.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's the Rams. This is probably the most intriguing of all when you match up the different positions. This one's probably the one that's probably the closest, in my opinion, because I don't know. You got experience versus youth, but the experience is still pretty young in itself. So, but you got to go with the Rams just because of Cooper Kupp, to be honest.
Yeah. Looking now at the running backs, this one was a little bit easier for me as well. Bengals. You've got Joe Mixon, who leads in rushing yards this postseason with 191 and is averaging 3.7 yards per carry. In the regular season, he rushed for 1,200 yards, third in the league, averaging 4 yards per carry and 13 touchdowns, and he's also a threat out of the backfield. So I think, Cam Akers has had some moments. Sony Michel, we've seen what he can do, but as far as actually being big production-wise for their team, it's Joe Mixon 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's surprising that he's been as successful as he has behind that O-line. Maybe they're just a better run blocking unit than they are pass protection, which happens. Yeah, I'm going with the Bengals on this one too. Joe Mixon. I think Joe Mixon could honestly be a difference maker in this game. It could be one of the bigger players to keep an eye on whether or not the Bengals ultimately win this thing or not. Because with Joe Mixon, it helps keep that LA Rams offense off the field.
Well, not only that, you also have this sense that, we kind of go into this game with this preconceived notion, and I think it's very accurate, that the defensive line of the Rams are going to get past this offensive line. If you want to curtail that a little bit, you're dumping passes off to Joe Mixon. You're getting the ball out quickly, and that includes dumping it down to Mixon, who can be that threat, and I think that's what makes him all that more important in this game. So you want to slow down that offensive line, and you can't, or that defensive line, you can't really necessarily do that by blocking. You do that by getting a threat out of the backfield, which you have with Joe Mixon.
Well, and then at the same time, the defense is going to have to account for that. So that means you can't double a Jamar Chase or a T. Higgins. Somebody's got to play on Joe Mixon. You can't just keep a linebacker on him because he is fast. He is athletic. It's definitely a great weapon for the Bengals that gives them a good punch, because it's going then to open things up for them in the receiving game as well, because the Rams defense is going to have to respect that playmaking ability out of the backfield of Joe Mixon.
Now, finally, we get to the quarterbacks, and this is a
toss-up.
Yeah, this is another instance where I thought going into it I was going to lean one way, and then I ended up leaning in a completely different direction. So I was very surprised, going through on this one. Matt Stafford is the third-rated QB this postseason. Burrow is fourth. I really thought I was going to go Burrow here. I really thought I was going to go with the Bengals. But looking into the numbers, and I know we can sometimes get a little bit, lost. You
go numbers. You go numbers a lot. I go eye test.
Yeah. Stafford was fourth in QBR this season. Joe Burrow was 12th. Between the two QBs this postseason, Stafford is the only one above 70% completion and is averaging 300 yards per game. Also this postseason, Stafford has thrown more touchdowns, and he's thrown 6 touchdowns to Burrow's 4, and he's only thrown 1 interception to Burrow's 2. So not that, those aren't crazy numbers. It's not like, Burrow is thrown
pulling hair.
Right, but at the same time, one of the big kind of, cons or red flags about Stafford is his mistake proneness, through November, a lot of, that bad stretch for the Rams, it was silly picks. That's the whole reason why they were the 4 seed, is he threw a pick in overtime against the 49ers. And heck, if the 49ers have a pick on Tart,
we're not talking about the Rams right now.
We're not talking about the Rams.
This is an easy one. We're going Joe Cool with over Jimmy G.
Right, exactly. So, even though Stafford is more mistake prone, he's been sharp all postseason. And that's really, I think, diving into it, that's what you have to go on. And as much as I wanted to go Joe Burrow here, the numbers don't lie. Sometimes they do, but in this instance, I'm just like, it's just tough for me to look at all this information and not go Stafford.
For me, it is such a toss-up, but I have to go with the hot hand, I guess. Matthew Stafford is playing hot football right now, but I don't know. Joe Burrow is just playing differently. There's just something different about his play right now that I'm going to give him the advantage just because he's in a groove right now. And that's a scary thing. Like you said, if it wasn't for a dropped interception in the NFC Championship game, we wouldn't be talking about the Rams. Now, yeah, it was a field goal in overtime that won it for the Bengals, but that was against arguably the best team over the past several seasons of the AFC and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Playing their fourth straight AFC Championship game?
Yeah, something like that. It's a different type of situation there. But yeah, I'm going with Joe Cool. If he shows up rocking the black turtleneck, gold chain, and the Cartier sunglasses, it's game over.
Rams might as well not even suit up.
Not even show up. Like, oh man, he's done it. He's called his shot. Game over already.
We're staying home. Thank goodness this is our hometown. We don't have to worry about flying back.
Question is, who gets the home locker room?
I
haven't heard.
I would imagine. I don't see why you wouldn't just go, hey, work smarter, not harder. Rams get your own locker room. Because
I don't think Tampa Bay got their own locker room.
Well, because
it's whoever is considered the home team gets the home locker room.
Which is the Bengals, but I don't know.
So the Bengals get that locker room.
But it's not like we're dealing with the locker rooms at Kinnick Stadium where the visiting lockers are pink. Yeah,
Yeah, they're still very nice. They're still nice.
They're not putting you in okay, well, you're in this heck, even at Ball State, I'm pretty sure the locker room for the visiting team is still under the stands as opposed to where the nice locker room for Ball State. So I mean, it's
I think it's the outhouse back there behind the stands.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure. Oh no, it's on the other end. Yeah,
it's under the stands.
Yeah, if it's anything like the practice locker room underneath Schumann Stadium, oh boy, what a dump.
Right, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. It's not like you're putting these guys in these tough conditions. They're still so I don't know why you wouldn't just.
They actually have X-ray machines, unlike Purdue and what Jim Harbaugh was complaining about.
I don't see why they wouldn't just be you know what? It's a lot easier on us if you guys we'll still put you.
I mean, I think they stick with what tradition is. I mean, you did see the memo, wink, wink, that came out from Roger Goodell this week stating, 2 years that we never thought we'd have it of one of the participating teams playing in their home stadium. And it's happened 2 years in a row now. So to make sure this never happens again, we're going to have every Super Bowl here on out in AT&T Stadium in Dallas.
Yes. Just alternate every other year. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Maybe throw in,
Indianapolis.
Yeah. Throw in Indianapolis for sure. Throw in Minnesota. I mean,
Detroit. Can't go wrong with Detroit.
We're going to have the game at Ford Field every season, and we're golden. So one last category to go through here. Head coach. This is easy for me. Rams. Sean McVay has a 68% win percentage, including the playoffs, and he's coached in the Super Bowl. Zach Taylor. I mean, a fantastic season this season, but other than that, his coaching record isn't great. We've got these three games to go off of, in the playoffs, whereas McVay is a little bit more experienced. So I'm going with McVay as far as who's got the coaching advantage.
Yeah, I'm going with McVay too, the Georgia High School Football Player of the Year. What's funny is that these are both of them are super young coaches. I think it's the youngest coaching matchup in Super Bowl history. And it's funny because if you look at this coaching carousel or hiring round that's happened, everybody's trying to go younger with these obscure names that nobody's ever heard of, except unless you're the Houston Texans, you go hire Lovie Smith.
Look, I like that hire though.
I don't.
Really?
You failed at Illinois. Well, of course, that's not hard to do. But it's kind of funny. It's funny to see how those types of things this matchup is dictating how other teams are now hiring their head coaches. Young head coaches. Let's give that a whirl instead of the same old retreads. But yeah, head coaching, it's got to go to McVay. I mean, he's coached in the Super Bowl before. That's got to say something. He knows how to get his players' nerves under control. Whereas Zach Taylor's he's going to have his own nerves to deal with as well. So I mean, Sean McVay, all he's got to worry about is performing better than they did last time.
All we got to do
I mean, all you got to do is score a touchdown.
Yeah.
All you got to do is score a touchdown, and that's already better. So
even 2 field goals are better. I mean, we don't want to see another another 13-3. Look, I'm just saying I have a Super Bowl party every year, and of course it was the worst part was it was against the Patriots. So not only was it a boring Super Bowl, it also involved the Patriots winning. So it was just it was one of those times where like you could be like, okay, well yeah, the Patriots won, but at least it was a fun party. Like no, the game stunk, and it stunk.
The Patriots won. But that's why this Super Bowl is so great, because honestly, for me as a football fan, I really don't care who wins this one, because I don't want to. I'm not out there rooting against somebody like I have been with Tom Brady or the Patriots. Like I don't want to see Tom Brady win another Super Bowl. This year, I'm like, I don't care who wins.
And
I just want an exciting game, because this is going to be a fun matchup. I mean, I love the storylines behind both teams. It's fun. And that's what the Super Bowl has been missing in a lot of years. So I don't really care who wins, because I'm not rooting against anybody. I'm not rooting for anybody in particular. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited finally to be able to tune in and watch the commercials and all the new movie trailers that are coming out. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah. So
I'm thinking I may have to order a party pack from B-Dubs. I don't know, because I did that for a UFC fight, and that was such a great idea.
So let's go ahead and do our keys to the game and predictions. So for me, key to the game here is Cincinnati has gotten here by finding ways to win and overcoming obstacles. So, whether it be, I mean, against the Raiders, it wasn't super tough in that regard. I mean, they pretty much from the get-go looked like the better team. But against the Titans, you had to overcome 9 sacks. You had to overcome King Henry coming back for his first game. In however many weeks, which, even though he was coming off injury, only got 68 yards. I mean, that's still a mountain to climb. Mm-hmm. And then against the Chiefs, you had the biggest mountain to climb, and being down 21-3, you come back and win that game. If they can force Matthew Stafford and the Rams into mistakes, I think they can win. If they can force interceptions, it reminds me a lot of the conversation we had when we were previewing the NCAA championship, where, going into it, I was like, hey, look, Georgia got picked apart by Alabama, but if they can force Bryce Young to make mistakes and force interceptions and all that kind of thing, then I think they got a shot. If Cincinnati can force Matthew Stafford into interceptions, if Stafford throws just, a duck in the middle of the field and they actually have some hands on Cincinnati and make the catch, then I think we're looking at a Bengals win. But if not, I think LA will be the second team to win a title in their own stadium. And so when I'm looking at the prediction I'm going to make, I'm kind of doing the same thing I've done several years in a row, where, you know what, I think I want to see the Bengals win more than I do the Rams, but the team that I'm picking is going to be the Rams. I've got the Rams winning this game 31-28 over the Bengals. I mean, we can't have it not be a game won by 3 points, because that seems to be the trend. But
this playoffs, and it's going to be a last-second field goal.
Exactly.
If that's the case, I gotta go with the Bengals.
Right. But yeah, I'm going with the Rams here to win the Super Bowl 31-20.
Yeah, I think the biggest key is for really it's Joe Burrow to not get rattled. Because that pass rush is coming, whether or not you're ready for it, it's coming. And I have trust that Zach Taylor is going to be able to scheme around that, like you said earlier, getting short passes out to Joe Mixon and letting him create, which will eventually then in turn open things up around the field as well. I think the Cincinnati, if you're Cincinnati, just keep doing what you've been doing. Don't try to get fancy. For LA, play smart. Don't let the moment get to you. I have a feeling that could potentially be something that happens to Matthew Stafford. I mean, getting through the playoffs and getting that first win off his back, that's, it's in the past. He was able to do that and get that, but now this is a different beast. This is the Super Bowl. Like, all eyes are on you. I mean, not everybody tunes in to the NFC Championship, but everybody tunes into the Super Bowl. Even if you're not a football fan, you tune into the Super Bowl. That's just what it is. It's that type of event. So just don't let the moment get to you. If you're the Rams, especially Matthew Stafford. Same thing goes for Joe Burrow, though, too. This is keys for just both teams. Do what you've been doing these playoffs. Don't try to get too cute with it. Play solid. Forget about the moment. But I am picking the Rams to win. Same situation as you. Like I said, I don't really care who wins. I would like to see the Bengals win more just because the story behind the Bengals is even just that much better. But I am going with the Rams because if you are looking at not getting rattled in the big situation, being able to be in your home stadium, sleep in your own bed. I don't know if they're staying at a hotel or whatnot, but my guess would be they're probably staying in their own beds for the lead up, and then they're staying in a hotel the couple days prior. But it just says something about being able to have that familiarity around you, when you're pulling into I'm sure they're taking a team bus and everything from a hotel. I guarantee they are at some point.
Driving up in a pickup truck.
Well, you never know. That's how the players get to the stadiums otherwise.
True.
But being able to, you're pulling into the stadium the same way you've done several times throughout this year. You're walking the same hallways. Yeah, it's going to look different with the Super Bowl signage and everything, but it's still the same hallways. It's still the same field, even though it's painted differently. You know how that stadium can be when it's super loud. You understand the dynamics around your environment. So that says something. And I think that's the ultimate advantage the Rams have here in the fact giving them the victory. I think it's going to be a close one. I hope it's a close one because I want an entertaining game, but I am going with the Rams because of the familiarity in their environment. Now, unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be like, all Rams fans in the stands, because if you looked at the ticket prices, nobody could afford those unless you are Elon Musk, including parking. Apparently parking around the stadium that's typically free normally is like $2,000 a day.
Jeez.
That's nuts. It's getting out of hand when former NFL superstars are like, how do you expect a team's fans to support them and they're on the biggest stage when the average person cannot, even like the non-average people cannot afford a single ticket to this game? Upper top row nosebleed is going for like $5,000 per ticket. No way. So
especially because
that's a different story for a different day. But that is, that's LA for you. And it being essentially a home game for the Rams. I don't think it's going to be an all Rams fan. It's the Super Bowl. Most people that are at the Super Bowl don't have a horse in the race. They just can afford going to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's not like many people have like $5,000 in their savings waiting for their team to go to the Super Bowl so they can blow it all.
Have you seen this man cave?
True. That is true. Maybe B. Scott does, but
I just can't afford the flight to LA. I can't afford the time off this time of year to go out to LA for a football game.
Right. Same. Totally. I was on The Office, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're both going with the Rams here.
Which means the Bengals are going to win.
Exactly. So go ahead if you're someone who bet for the Bengals. Fun fact: one of the bigger streamers on YouTube is known for his own kiss of death. And he picked the Rams as well. So especially go put all your money on the Bengals.
The odds for the Bengals to win, just straight money line, is pretty good odds.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Like you would win a good chunk of change just leaving with a small bet. So right. Definitely worth it if you just got $20. You want to throw $20 down on the Bengals, doesn't hurt.
Exactly. So real quick before we get out of here, we do want to talk some NBA trade deadline, more specifically with the Indiana Pacers, as the last few days have been pretty wild as the sticks of dynamite have been taken to the team and it is being blown to smithereens. First, you had Karis LeVert get traded on Sunday. He's traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Pacers sent LeVert and a 2022 second round pick to Cleveland, where they receive where the Pacers.
Yeah, I didn't think they sent a pick.
Well, the article I read said they did.
Okay, because I thought what the terms that I saw through like Bleacher Report and everything, the Pacers received Ricky Rubio, a lottery protected first rounder. I do see the 2 second rounders there, but I don't think we sent a second round pick because I don't know. Don't quote me.
Well, and
I'm an idiot.
Also,
so.
because the trade was reported on Sunday, so there's a chance that the article that I read didn't have the official it had maybe the main part, which was the Rubio and the lottery protected first, but maybe
I know we did get 2 seconds because I believe one of those seconds was shipped out today.
Right. So, but yeah, part of they get Ricky Rubio, which that's just to take on the expiring contracts.
He's out for the season, anyways.
Right.
He's not even in the country.
And then they also received a lottery protected first rounder and 2 second round picks. But then the big blockbuster today,
the one that didn't even make the lineup because it was too late.
Domantas Sabonis traded to the Sacramento Kings in return for Buddy Hield and Tyrese Halliburton. Halliburton was the 12th round, was the 12th selection in the 2020 NBA draft. So that sent Kings Nation into a frenzy.
So that trade is even bigger because a lot of people want to say, like, the Pacers fans are like, oh, we lost this trade. Like, no, we didn't. No, the Pacers did not lose a trade. They sent like half their roster to the Sacramento Kings: Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, and Justin Holiday, along with a 2027 second round pick. In return, they got Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson, who we alluded to. Oh, did I allude? Yeah, I alluded to him off air.
Yeah, I was going to say off air you did.
Off air. Ooh, good thing it wasn't on air. That could have been bad. But yeah, you give your thoughts first. I want to see what you got.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm happy with like I said earlier in the podcast. This is the first time I've really felt in a while that the Pacers have a direction. They have what they're doing, and even though we talked about a couple of weeks ago how they were supposed to you wouldn't think that Rick Carlisle was here for rebuild. Maybe this is a bad sign. Yada yada. I think this is the best way to do a rebuild, blow everything up, and yet still remain competitive and turn things around in a relatively quick fashion, as opposed to, hey, you know what, we're going to tank the next 4 seasons and we get what we get. We'll see. So, I mean, they're getting a lot of draft capital. They're getting players that, heck, King, if we're going by, obviously not a big, guy who's plugged into the Kings, apparently according to Kings Reddit, they have just traded away their entire franchise in Halliburton. So,
yeah.
I mean, it feels like the team is going in a good direction. It seems like we're getting a good mix of young players as well as draft capital, and it's still not over yet. The Pacers still could make some moves, which is really interesting and fun to see. And they're not only making moves, but they're also shredding salary, which means that they can also add some ancillary pieces here and there. So I'm really happy to see where they're going. Heck, just keep burning it down. Originally when they made the LeVert trade, that dropped the Pacers down to $95 million on the books for 2022 and that was before the Sabonis trade. So I don't know where that leaves them after that.
Well, it's significant because Justin Holiday was still on the books for 2 more seasons. The only expiring contract the Pacers dumped in that deal was Jeremy Lamb. So that's a pretty big deal. Yeah, apparently, like, when you are seeing headlines that the NBA world is in utter shock that the Pacers landed Tyrese Halliburton, you go, must have done something right here, because originally all the rumors were if Sabonis goes to Sacramento, De'Aaron Fox was linked to those types of rumors. And all along the Kings said Halliburton's off limits. He's untouchable. This kid is our future. He's really good. And for this trade to come out and De'Aaron Fox is still with Sacramento and Halliburton is with the Pacers, everybody's like, the Pacers just fleeced the Kings. I mean, Sabonis is good. but holy moly, they just got a rising star who's still on a rookie contract that everybody is in agreement that this is a future star. And he's going to fit great. If they end up keeping Miles Turner, he's going to fit great with Miles Turner. And so it's like, wow, the Pacers actually do something good. I mean, if you look at these two moves, like you said, it is great to see that there's actually a direction that this team, you could see the direction. I wish the Colts had this kind of roadmap.
Right.
But you can actually see it. I mean, look, this team has essentially, I mean, nothing is confirmed with where the 2022 second round pick that the Pacers landed, which is coming via Houston. It looks like the Pacers are going to have 3 picks within the top 35 this season. And to be honest, I don't know if the Pacers are done yet. I mean, if they're okay with Tristan Thompson as a center, or, you know, I mean, they got Isaiah Jackson, who's playing out of this world. I think if you're okay with Isaiah Jackson getting more PT, you go ahead and move Miles Turner if you can and see what you can get there. But I don't think they're done. I think some of these moves that were made are actually setting up other moves. Like, I would not be the least bit surprised to see Buddy Hield be on the move again. I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, I know he's been linked, him and Miles Turner have been linked to the Lakers, but to be honest, I don't see what the Lakers have asset wise to give up in return. I mean, unless the Pacers are okay with taking on Westbrook's contract for the rest of this season. I mean, it is up afterwards, but is that something? I mean, I guess if you know you're not going to win a championship, that's okay. But the Lakers don't even have a first round pick until 2027. So you're looking way off in the future. And if you're looking for a quick rebuild, I don't think you want a 2027 or a 2028 first rounder by any stretch of the imagination there. So, I mean, I don't think they're done yet, but what they've done so far, if they said, okay, we are done, I'd be okay with that as well, because this is an opportunity now to give these younger players the playing time. Like, obviously the Pacers are playing tonight. The game may be over by now, but they had like nobody available except all these young players and Lance Stevenson. So, I mean, but at the same time, I feel like this young team, everybody's so excited about these young players and getting to watch them. I feel like even if they're out there losing, fans are going to show up even more so now to watch this team, because they want to see these young players, the future of this team. And just because they've been fun to watch, at least, you know, yeah, they're not winning games, but at least they look good doing it. You know, it's not like it's a horrible product they're putting out on the court. It's just a young, inexperienced product, which everybody can agree. That's fine. I'm okay with that. So I love these moves. Everybody said the Pacers were going to be active come deadline time, and they're not lying. I did not expect a full barn burner with one team, and I did not expect it to be the Sacramento Kings to be at that. But the more I'll be honest, I don't know much about the Sacramento Kings. I know who Buddy Hield is because watching him at Oklahoma. Tyrese Halliburton, I don't know much about, but reading what everybody's saying, it's like, whoa, this could be like pairing Halliburton and Duarte and Isaiah Jackson in the future. It's got a legitimate shot. And then if the Pacers can draft, I know everybody's clamoring for Jaden Ivey. The Pacers community wants Jaden Ivey because they think right around 3 or 4 where the Pacers possibly could be picking is where he could be. So I don't know. This could be a fun team in the future. A totally different look to what the Pacers have been in the past with, you know, big men in the center and just powerful. And, you know, it's going to be I think it could be a high flying, high scoring team. And it has all the potential to be very exciting in the future. I'm excited. I'm interested to see how this all turns out.
Yeah, me too. Because you mentioned about some of these pieces still being on the move, and honestly, it's one of those things where, I mean, with the exception of like Ricky Rubio, like a lot of the players they're getting back, like, you're okay if they move them, except for maybe, you know, Halliburton. But you're also like okay if like you keep them as well. Like, they're good players too.
Yeah, I'd be okay with Buddy Hield.
Right.
But honestly, the addition of Buddy Hield makes me wonder if they don't move him, are they looking at moving Brogdon?
I mean, yeah, moving Brogdon would definitely make sense, especially because they owe him so much.
So much money, and he's been injured so much. But I don't know. It's interesting, and it's fun to actually, see the breaking news and it be Pacers related.
Yeah, and good news that's fun. At
that. Yeah. I don't know. There was a moment there I was like, oh, I'm a little disappointed to see Sabonis go because, he's a good player. I remember watching him his first game here in Indy, sitting next to a Pacers super fan courtside. And he was like, he was asking me about these new guys. And I said, oh, that's Domantas Sabonis. He goes, wait, is that Arduinius Sabonis's kid? I was like, yeah, he is. And he was like, oh my gosh, I remember watching this guy, his dad play. And, Sabonis is just always kind of, he was a hard worker. And I thought, honestly, the best player to be picked up in that trade for Paul George, I thought it was going to be Sabonis, to be honest. I didn't think Oladipo was going to play like he did, but I was like, I was like, Sabonis is honestly, you saw that potential there that first season, and all of a sudden it just blew up, and it's like, yep. And so it's unfortunate that the Pacers got into this situation where they had to, kind of blow the whole thing up, because I thought Sabonis I really wanted to see him succeed here in Indy. I mean, this is what the Kings are now his fourth team in his young career, and he's an all-star. That's crazy to think, because he was with the Magic, Thunder, Pacers, Kings.
Last thing I'll say on it is this. I mean, you look at two different outlooks, and you mentioned the Paul George trade. When the Pacers traded Oladipo last year, just kind of were like, what do we do? Like, I don't know what. Like, they got LeVert. There was some optimism around that, but at the same time, you kind of felt like, okay, well, we thought Oladipo was our guy, and I remember when the Pacers made that trade, for Oladipo and Sabonis, and you're like, I don't really know who the Sabonis guy is, but then they only got Oladipo for fan service, so I guess we'll see, and it ended up being this, really good tandem of players. But this time around, even though we can lament Sabonis' time here, it's not overshadowed necessarily, but it's coupled right there with it, with the excitement of what this team could be in the future. Whereas when the Pacers traded, Oladipo for LeVert last year, it's kind of like, okay, I guess we'll see what happens.
But what's interesting is you bring that up. Everybody wants to go, well, all those trades failed then. No, just connect the dots with me for a second. Essentially, the Pacers traded Paul George now for a late first round pick, an early second round pick, an expiring contract in Ricky Rubio, a rising star in Tyrese Halliburton, a veteran in Buddy Hield, and filler in Tristan Thompson. They turned Paul George essentially into 3 draft picks. Well, I think they moved one of them. So 2 draft picks and 4 players, and really 3 players. So that's a lot. Because the pieces that have been moved outside of Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday, who were free agent signings, the pieces that have been moved all originated from Paul George being traded to Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Well,
in some shape or another.
Yeah. So it took about 3 or 4 years to get there, but hey, we got there to that point.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Very true, very true. Well, that will do it for this week's edition of the Crash Course Podcast. That was our Super Bowl preview. Got some Pacers and Pro Bowl talk in there as well. B. Scott and I are both picking the Rams. Remember that you can follow us at 3C Media Sports on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook, 3C Media. You can go to our YouTube channel. Go subscribe over there. 3C Media on TikTok as well. We've got a lot of great content over there, so make sure you are locked into that. Remember, you can watch us live every week, twitch.tv/CraigCrash. And remember, you can listen to us every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard. You can hear the Crash Course Podcast. You can find me at Crash Course FM on Twitter. B. Scott, where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter at Brandon_Scott87.
So I hope everybody enjoys their Super Bowl. We're going to have a lot to talk about even after the Super Bowl, so make sure you're locked in. It's going to be a lot of fun, but until then, have a good week, everybody.